Hi everyone, Jeremy here with HB Pool. Today we're going to talk about plumbing, and we are lucky to have Dustin here with us. Give us a little bit of your background and why you're showing this to us. Yes.
So a little bit of my background. I've been working in the plumbing and pipe fitting trade for about 15 years, and also off and on with HB Pool since the beginning.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah.
Good. So 15 years, that's long enough to understand plumbing?
I think so.
Yeah?
I hope so.
I hope so. Sounds good. All right, so let's dive right in. Okay. So let's start with, I guess, Teflon and these pressure gauge. So
a lot of things we see on gauges is Teflon. Yep. And a lot of people maybe aren't sure of the right way to put Teflon, how much Teflon to put on. And what we see a lot of is gauges taken out during the winter time, and then when we come back in the spring, there's just layers and layers of built up Teflon, right? So one of the things we got to make sure we're doing is we got to clean that Teflon off.
Yep.
We don't want to leave too much Teflon on and add more to it, because what's going to happen is when we put this into our filter head, which is right here, once we go and have all this layers and layers of Teflon, we put this in, we're going to start causing stress around this little orifice here.
Yeah.
And we run the risk of putting a crack in it.
Yeah, and this is a weak point in the filter.
Exactly,
correct?
Especially on older ones, because this plastic is going to get brittle over time, and it's going to want to split, and then you've just ruined a good filter head.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so let's do it then.
So there's a couple ways you can clean the Teflon off of your fittings.
Yeah.
So my favorite way is just to use a little wire brush. You can get these brushes at any hardware store in the plumbing aisle. They're typically used for cleaning copper fittings. And what you do with this is we're going to take our brush, find our little spot with Teflon, and just start brushing it. You can go back and forth, we can go one direction, and just put a little bit of elbow grease into it, and what you're going to see is it's just going to strip that Teflon away.
Oh wow, you can actually see the
and then
plastic right underneath. So you just pull it off.
Yeah, you can start pulling it off, maybe give it a couple more rubs back and forth, and it's really going to start cleaning that Teflon off to the point where you can just grab with our fingers and start stripping it. Okay.
Wow. This is a very neat trick.
Yeah, this is a really good trick, especially for these bigger plastic fittings.
Yes.
So when we're dealing with something like brass, we can use a knife.
Okay.
Get a nice Alpha knife, and what we're going to do.
Yeah. And if we want to actually show, let's just move over here, just closer over here. Yeah.
Right there. So here we go. So we want to run our knife parallel to the threads.
Yeah.
We can start picking away any of the loose stuff. And then once we get into this tighter stuff here, what we're going to do is we're going to follow the pitch of the thread. Yeah. Pick down and then away. So
you're going in the groove and then pulling back up.
Into the groove and pulling all that tape down from the bottom. We never want to run our knife perpendicular, because we're going to end up scratching that brass.
Damaging the brass.
Damaging the brass, and we're going to make a leak point, a possible leak point. So you can see we can get right under there.
Yeah.
We can cut that Teflon off. Yeah, and we're really getting down to the bottom.
Perfect.
And we're exposing all that nice clean brass
it's
underneath.
Clean right now, yeah.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So then once we've done that, we can always take our brush.
Gently
just to get the last remnants out.
Just the last stuff. Okay.
And we're good to go. So that'll clean up a fitting.
Very nice. Okay, this is a great explanation. So again, we can use just a little brush, all right, you can buy anywhere, and the X-Acto knife to clean it off. So then putting the Teflon on it now, let's go into that.
So putting the Teflon on, there's a certain way we want to do it, right? So if we're looking at the threads head on, we want to be putting it clockwise around.
Okay.
So for me, I'm right-handed, so I'd like to hold the gauge in my left hand, threads facing my right hand. I'm going to grab my tape, and I'm going to start behind the threads. Hold it there with my finger, and you want to make sure that your tape is coming off the top of your roll.
All right.
If it's on the bottom, it's going to be loose all the time when you pull it.
Yeah, I see. So you want to get good pressure on it.
Good pressure on it. You're going to give it a little bit of a tug, and we're going to go around. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 times around. And we're also going to make sure we're not getting any Teflon covering up this hole here, because that's where the water goes in. That's where we get our pressure reading from.
Very important. Now we just snap it off.
Give it a pull. It's off. It's nice and clean on the bottom.
And again, there is a reason why we go on this this direction, correct?
Yes. So when we go clockwise, when we spin our gauge in, we're not going to be unraveling the Teflon.
Makes sense. Gotcha.
Because we're turning in our gauge like this, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So we want it in a way that the Teflon is not just going to unravel or get pushed all the way to the end.
I like it.
Another thing we can do for threads and Teflon is we like to use a nice product called Magic Lube, Teflon-based lubricant. We never want to use petroleum-based.
No, we want the magic.
That's it. We want the magic. We don't want to use petroleum-based because it really eats up rubber. Stuff like Vaseline, I've seen people try and use. We want to stay away from that.
Okay,
we can try and get this. We sell this product as well.
Teflon base.
Yeah, at Teflon base. You can ask your tech to drop you off a tube of this, and it works great for fittings. So we're going to, if you don't want to get your hands all gooey, you can just put it on like this.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, go around.
And that's it.
Or if you're wearing a nice pair of gloves.
Beautiful, yeah. You got
wipe with your finger.
Nice glove there. That's amazing. Perfect.
And then we're good.
All right.
So now to tighten those gauges in.
Yes.
We really want to stay away from using any kind of pliers or channel locks.
What about a hammer?
Well, maybe not a hammer.
No?
I'd probably try and stay away from that one.
So good.
We're going to use a nice wrench.
Okay.
So we see this nice square brass shoulder here.
Yeah.
A 9/16 wrench.
That's what it's made for.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And the 9/16 fits most gauges. I'd say 90% of gauges.
Okay.
And we're going to put our wrench on. We're going to do our tightening. We're not going to use any type of pliers or channel locks because what's going to happen is we're going to strip that brass off.
Yeah.
This will end up being round eventually. And then you're stuck with a gauge and you can't get it off.
So why do we use a tool instead of just, obviously we've got, a nice grip on this. So why aren't we just, twisting it in?
Well, that's something we've seen a lot of people try and do. And it's very bad for a good reason. So this casing here is plastic. It's held on by these two screws onto the body here of this brass.
Yeah.
Inside your gauge, there is a spring.
Okay.
This spring is calibrated to read your pressures properly.
Gotcha.
If you go and grab this by the head and you twist it, it's plastic, you're going to end up stretching that spring, damaging it, and you can see this gauge here.
It's already been damaged.
It's already been damaged. It's run right around to the back.
Okay.
So this gauge is no more good.
No more good. Okay,
right?
That's good. So again, when you put it in, you don't want to put it too tight, not to break the head. You don't want to put too much Teflon, just the proper amount.
That's right. So proper amount. Now that depends on the scenario.
Yeah.
So I like to do 4 wraps around.
Yep.
We're going to try it. Maybe in an older head, the fitting is worn out a little bit.
Yep.
So we might have to take it out if we see a leak.
Yep.
We'll take that Teflon off with our handy tools.
Perfect.
And we'll add maybe 1 or 2 more wraps.
As needed if it's leaking.
And then once we see it stop leaking, we're good. We're not going to add any more.
Sweet.
We're going to leave it alone.
Okay, so we're done with the gauge. Perfect. Now we've got these fittings. All right, so these are obviously the ones that most people see all the time.
Yep.
And with the magic of the video, right, we've got a new one. Boom. Yes.
Boom. Brand new.
So how do we do this? So we've cleaned this up, obviously with a little brush. Now it's beautifully clean. So how would we go about doing a fitting instead of a gauge?
A larger fitting like this, as we can see on this, 1 wrap cleans up all the threads. It covers the whole thing. 1 wrap of this Teflon is not going to fit, right? So we're going to do the same basic principles with a couple of variations here. So we're going to always start at the back of our threads. So we're going to start at the back.
Again, same
direction, the same clockwise direction.
Yeah.
I'm a righty, so we're going to have the fitting in our left hand.
Yep.
We're going to go around, keeping tension on our tape, and then we're going to switch, going to move over a couple threads and do the middle portion.
Gotcha.
I don't know if we can see the middle portion here. And then our next wrap, we're going to move down again to the end of the threads.
The full fitting.
That's
right. And then we go back to the...
Now we're going to go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And then back to the middle.
And then front.
And then back all the way to the front of the threads, making sure that we're not going, we don't want to go over like this.
Yeah. Just catching
the last thread.
And so how much, and if we, for this fitting, how many turns would you do?
So again, it'll depend on what it's going into. So if the threads are kind of old and they're maybe worn out a little bit, I like to do 4, maybe 5.
Okay.
If you find it's leaking, again, you take it out, you clean it, and you put the new Teflon on. And the reason we do it in that order is because you're making layers.
Yeah.
So if we start from the back, we got that one, and then we got the next one over top, and then we got the other one, the very last one like this. And when we screw it into our fitting, we're coming over top of our layers.
Yeah.
If we did it this way, starting at the front, working to the back, these layers are all going to peel off together.
Just gonna peel off, not going to work.
And then our Teflon's not going to be any use.
On. So here's something that I do. I don't know if that's okay or not. Just let me know. So I usually, actually, once I'm done, I just take the first row and I just put my my finger in it just to make it easier to find the location.
That's perfect. That's a very good idea.
Perfect.
Run it over with your hands even, just to make sure that Teflon's all tight.
And then you can even do the Magic Lube. And if we go Magic Lube right on the, and if we just go, if we just, I don't need a lot, I just find it just helps me out. And if we just go like that, boom, and I'm good, and my hands are not messy.
Your hands are not messy, you're good, you don't have to wear gloves for this. Perfect.
Okay, that makes sense. Done for the Teflon. Perfect. Great. So this was great information. Let's move on to O-ring.
O-rings.
Yes.
O-rings and spots we don't want to use Teflon.
Okay, so we were doing Teflon. Now we're where we don't want Teflon.
Where we don't want to use Teflon.
Let's dive in. So let's remove the Teflon.
So a couple of things we see is Teflon on parts we don't need them. So as you can see here, this sight glass has all kinds of Teflon put on the threads here.
Yeah.
But we have this rubber O-ring. This rubber O-ring goes into our filter head and it seats against the edge of the glass like that. This is our sealing point.
So it's not the Teflon.
It's not the threads that are sealing it, it is the gasket. So in a place like this, we don't need to put the Teflon, we can take that off, and we're going to use nice clean threads and a nice rubber gasket. If you're finding you're having leaks, typically it means that your gasket needs to be changed, or you just want to give it a little extra crank.
So would I put magic lube on this?
No, so for magic lube, we're going to try and use that only on our threads. Threads and Teflon such as this.
Yep.
For gaskets and O-rings, we're going to use Hayward's Jack's Formula Multi-Lube.
All right. Does it absolutely need to be this one?
Well, we like to use it.
Okay.
You can use the magic lube, but this one we find through testing has been working the best.
Yeah, for O-rings and gaskets.
O-rings and gaskets.
Yeah,
so we're
for sure.
We're just going to use a little bit. We don't need much. And what this is going to do, it's going to help these gaskets from drying out. It's going to help prevent them from drying out.
And it'll keep them in place as well.
Keep them in place as well, and going to make a nice seal. So we just put a little bit on.
And so on our filter, if we show on our filter, where does that go?
So we see on our filter here, on the waist side, we're going to put our O-ring in with our Jack lube on it, or our Teflon-based lubricant.
Yes, Teflon base for gasket and O-rings.
And now we got our nice clean sight glass, no Teflon on the threads. We're going to screw that in, and we feel it seat against the rubber. Good
no
tight.
Teflon,
no
Teflon,
leaks. No leaks.
Amazing.
Very, very good.
Okay, perfect. And so what do we have here also? Another fitting that's got tread though. So are we putting Teflon over here, or what's going on?
So on a fitting such as these Prayer Quick Connects, we use these lots on our pumps and filters.
Yep.
It's really good for easy disconnecting of pumps. If you want to bring your pump inside for the winter, or even if it needs to be changed, it's just going to lower your service costs, right?
Absolutely.
So we see we have threads here. We have an O-ring here. This is our sealing surface. We have this nice clean O-ring here and a nice machine flat surface. These two mated together is going to be our sealing surface.
So I don't need Teflon.
You don't need Teflon on these threads here.
All right. And this is going to connect either on my pump, on my filter, or whatnot. And then this will create a seal on the other, I guess, surface, flat surface right here. Correct?
Exactly.
So I want to clean this off. And if this is clean and smooth, I don't need any Teflon on that neither?
Nope, you do not need Teflon because once again, your O-ring is your sealing surface.
Gotcha.
We want to be checking these every year because they do wear out. You'll see little cracks start to form in them.
And
and we're going to put our lubricant on our O-rings every year
to help
longevity.
Longevity, perfect.
Yep, we're not going to have them wearing out or cracking or drying out.
Perfect, so let's understand this. So basically, we've got Teflon where there's no gasket or O-ring, but if there's an O-ring or a gasket, no Teflon.
No Teflon. Lube up.
Easier.
We're going to lube up our O-rings and gaskets just to keep them having a long life.
This settles the O-ring and gasket. Thank you.
Yeah,
perfect.
No problem.
Let's dive into PVC.
PVC. So here we have our typical 1.5-inch PVC pipe. We see these a lot. This is our rigid pipe.
Yep.
We see these a lot in our systems. And coupling, just a regular old coupling. So we're going to show, for the adventurous viewers out there, if you want to do your own gluing, we're going to show you how to do that.
All right.
So we use our Zyrtec and our Ipex. Zyrtec will be our primer. Ipex will be our glue. And these are the two products we like to use for PVC.
Perfect. Let me just jump in there. So primer. Why are we even using primer? I know people aren't. Like, what's going on? Is it just for cleaning? What does the primer do?
Good question. I've heard that question a lot too. Actually, a lot of people ask me that question. So the primer is going to do two things. Number one, it is going to clean.
Okay.
You'll see that in a second. But the second thing it's going to do is it's going to actually soften this plastic. It's going to soften the plastic to the point where you can almost take your nail and remove some material on it.
Wow.
And what that does is when we put our glue on and we insert our two fittings together, it's going to really make a tight bond and a nice glue or weld.
Melt it together.
Yeah, it's a solvent weld. It's going to melt the two together and you're never going to have leaks. It's going to last a very, very long time.
Amazing. Okay.
So when we have our pipes, we like to use PVC shears. Not everyone's going to have those, we understand. But you can cut this with a hacksaw. You can cut this with a sawzall. Yeah. Even a box saw works fine. But we want to make sure that the ends, we're not leaving them 90 degrees like that.
Yeah, they're almost coming out like that once
That's right, once you've cut them.
Yeah.
So we carry these tools, which are beveling tools. And what that does, as you can see here, it strips off that sharp edge and puts a chamfer on it. You can see that plastic being removed.
Perfect.
And when we get in close here, we can see there's a nice...
like smooth, completely.
Yeah, nice beveled edge. So
nice.
The reason we do that is because when we have our glue and our primer on our fittings and our pipe, and we go to put the two together, that sharp edge would just force all the glue to the back of the joint, and then all your glue is getting wiped out from the inside.
And we really want the glue to go on.
That's right. We want the glue to go on. We want it to make a nice seal with the end here and do a good solvent weld on the inside. Perfect.
All right, so you're going to show us, or are you going to show us how we can do it without the beveling tool?
Yeah, so if you don't have a beveling tool, nobody at home is going to have these. I'll be straight honest with you. So one thing you can do is you can take a nice file, half round file or a flat file. Get your edge, and you're just going to go give it a couple of swipes.
So just on a 45?
Just on a 45. And what that's going to do is going to just knock that sharp edge off of it and give it a nice bevel.
You see it right away, like 2 seconds, and you've
Yep, it's very, very simple to do. You're going to peel that little piece off.
And now at least we're on an angle.
We're on an angle.
It's not going to push the glue at the back.
That's right.
Okay, perfect.
So now let's move on to a glue joint. So we're going to start, make sure we have our gloves on first, because this primer is very corrosive and the glue as well.
And we've got a nice surface.
We want to be doing this in a well-ventilated area.
Yeah.
Correct. The fumes off these are quite strong.
Yeah.
So typically most of our pools are outside, our equipment's outside, but if you're in a shed, we want to leave a door open, leave a window open.
Even a mask?
Maybe not a mask, that probably wouldn't help, but if you have a fan or open all the windows, evacuate it out.
Gotcha.
The masks that you would need for fumes, they're very expensive. They have charcoal
the big
cartridges.
One, the actual commercial one.
Not everyone's going to have those.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is I like to hold both fittings in my hand at the same time. You can do them one at a time, but we want to kind of do this fast because the glue sets very quickly. So we take our primer, we're going to do a couple of rubs on the inside.
Yep.
And then we're going to do the outside. And you can see that cleaning action right there.
You see the...
It's even taking the ink off from the factory print on it. So we're going to clean that up. We're going to take our glue. This is very messy. We want to always keep some paper towel down so we're not making blue drops all over our concrete or our nice wooden floors in our sheds.
Nice.
Wipe around there.
So you put just enough to go around.
Just enough to go around. And then quickly, we're going to insert these two, push them in, and a little twist if we can.
Then you got to hold them together?
Hold them together, because if I were to let this go now, they would start pushing apart just from the force of the glue inside. So while the glue's still wet, we can always take a rag, a shop towel.
Any excess,
we're going to rub all that off just to make it look nice. And there we go, a nice glued joint.
Perfect. So now I can't take this off anymore.
Nope, this will be solid for a very long time. It's not going to leak, nice. And we're going to have a...
So should we keep the pump off like 10 minutes, or how long does it usually cure?
That's a good question too. So yeah, the cure time is relatively fast on these, but we do want to make sure that we're not gluing it and then turning our pump on right away.
Yeah, so good.
Leave 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Good enough.
Make sure it's nice and sealed, and then we're going to flip our pump on, and we should be good to go.
Perfect. All right, on. So this settles the PVC gluing section.
Yep.
All right, so let's go now to the Tiger Flex, and I believe we need a barb for this. So
Tiger Flex, and we have a barb fitting.
Right here, I've got some over here, so you can use this if you like.
Yep, we'll use a nice clean barb fitting.
I'm going to take these off.
Yeah, we're going to close these all the time when we're not using them, so we don't spill any.
So let me know when you're ready.
Okay, these can go.
Okay, gone.
So for our Tiger Flex and our barb fittings, we see these a lot, especially on the older pools. Sometimes they'll even be like a black poly pipe.
Yeah.
And we see these inserted, and sometimes they're always, you know, oh, I can't get them in, they're really tight. People put Vaseline or dish soap, and I still can't get them. So a little trick to doing these is we're going to put some heat to it.
Okay.
So propane torches work really good. Also heat guns work very well. So we're going to turn on our torch.
Always be careful, I'm assuming. With the
we're going to be careful. Once again, if you're inside, well-ventilated area. So we're just going to have a very low flame, And we're slowly going to heat this up. We don't want to hold it directly on it, or else we're going to start burning it.
You just want it to melt, right?
We just want it to soften up.
Soften up a little bit.
Soften up a little bit so that it can stretch over top of that barb fitting.
If you don't have a torch, can you use like a heat gun or something?
Heat gun works very well. Yeah, it'll take a little bit longer, but they do work well, and they don't have the tendency to burn the fittings as much.
As much, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
that might be
A good alternative to the propane torch would be the heat gun. So now we can see we're starting to get a little bit of smoke off this. It's getting hot. Oop, we don't want to barbecue it too much. Not too much, just a little bit. We want it medium rare.
Medium rare.
Medium rare for our pipe. We'll get a little bit of heat on the inside. Okay, we're going to turn our torch off. If you can grab this torch for me, Jer.
Yep.
We get our barb, and we can see it slides in super nicely, all the way to the end.
Perfect. And so where do we want the clamp? I guess I'm just going to bring another one fitting over here so that we get the understanding of where we are. So
these barbs here, those are going to be our sealing surface.
All right.
We want to make sure that when we're clamping directly over top of those barbs.
Gotcha.
We don't want to be clamping in this negative space here where there's nothing, because we're still going to have leaks come through there.
All right, so the clamp actually doesn't go right to the end. It goes
right over
on
where the barbs are.
Gotcha.
So we're going to put this on, and it's actually advantageous to do this while it's still warm.
Oh,
and I'll show you why. So we're going to put this on.
I don't have a drill. Can you use just a...
You can use a screwdriver. A flat screwdriver works fine for this.
Perfect.
This is a 5/16 nut driver.
Okay. So
5/16 fits on all these hose clamps. And you can see it just really molds into there very well.
Getting right in there.
Yeah, and it's really going to make a nice seal.
And then let's see if where our clamp is with the location, just like that. So as we can see, it's right on the barb.
Right on the barbs.
So this is where we want the clamp to be right on here. So we have no leak.
Now, if you wanted to add another one here, that's fine too. We can do that. But typically, the most important one is right here on our barbs.
Right on the barb.
Yep.
Perfect. Right on. Well, that concludes our segment. So thank you again to Dustin and Yannick, our cameraman over there. So it was a pleasure. And hopefully you'll have a great plumbing. No leaks.
That's it.
No leaks, right?
Yep, no leaks. And if we have any questions or concerns, HP Pool is always here to help.
Absolutely, we are. All right. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.